Recording in progress. Recording in progress. Recording.
I'm logged in, so.
Oh.
That.
All right, you're all set.
All right, now the official call to order. So we're looking to see if anybody's out there.
We have
We have some-
Stephanie.
Oh, okay.
Which, if she'd like to share her screen, I can. promote her.
Eventually, yeah,
Yeah.
I will, but I don't need to right now.
Okay,
So looks like there are no
no one else,
outside attendees.
just Stephanie from Topsham.
Yeah. So we should talk about the minutes, approval of minutes. In strange and rare fashion, I have one thing. That Carl saw our ad in the, I think it's the crier, not the flyer. Or was it the flyer?
No.
Crier
Was it the crier?
for the posting for the committee.
Yeah.
Yeah, crier. Did not. Did not review the notes closely enough, Jackie, that's my fault.
Well, I already said they were all good, and then I was looking at it again. And the flyer, I don't know about that. So anyway,
Okay.
It was the flyer and the crier.
the flyer and the crier. So that's the only thing I have. Anybody have anything else?
Okay. I'll move to accept the minutes as corrected.
I'll second. All in favor?
Yes.
Off we go. Mark, you got anything for us? Staff updates?
I can't think anything specific, that we've just been getting ready for town meeting and things, so.
Is there any update on recode, on the status of recode?
Funny you should ask. We had a meeting this afternoon with planning board and energy committee, the chair and vice chair, and in one case, a substitute for the chair, and then staff and one of the select board members. And we've got the general framework. We think of a way to move forward, which would be, we'll go back to reviewing the draft recode with at the pace planning board wants. So could be small, very small pieces if that's what they want. We would probably pick a designated night each month, so it doesn't have to try to mix in with another meeting. At the meeting, you would have kind of everyone in one room at one time. It'd be hybrid option too. And it would be, so planning board, CPIC, some of the representatives of TDI that have input that want to go, could go. General public, anyone, plenty of opportunity for public comment as they go through each item. And then as they go through each item, planning board will make a judgment call. We want this, we don't want that. And then Sky will keep and actually Sky would also, for each meeting, prepare a memo, basically saying what's different from our current code. So it's really easy to tell what's new and what isn't, as they go through discussions. Probably pick the hardest topics first, the ones that we think will have the most difficulty getting consensus around, because the thought is, let's figure out if that can happen. If it can't happen, let's not spend a lot of meetings on the smaller stuff. And then if, on the other hand, if the big stuff can get done, probably the small stuff will start moving quick after that. So they're gonna take that back to CPIC, see if they're okay with that. And then I think on May 10th, then we'll take it to the planning board on May 14th. And then if everyone thinks it's good, then we take it to the select board, which if everyone likes it, I'm sure they'd bless it and things. So that's the plan.
Do you think you're gonna get through the whole thing by then?
The whole code.
The whole recode, all the changes and stuff they want to make?
The plan is not to look at any of them before then. We're right now,
Oh,
we're
I
trying to
see.
find the framework to get everyone on
the
the same
framework.
page to move forward.
Yeah.
And because the thought behind this is we're almost already, a couple more years, we time to work on the comprehensive plan again, a new one. So there isn't really time to restart and do something new.
Yeah.
We spent over 100,000 on what we've got here.
Yeah.
So it seems And what we've got here also has probably 80 or so changes that Tom Lister, over his 15 years here, has written down places where there are issues with our current code, that something's not well enough to find, or you can't make, there's no references that are missing, whatever it might be. So that all got written into the draft too. And the recode is, and if I'm redundant, say so, but the recode is a better format. I think, if you wanted to look at a zoning code, it's a lot easier to sort of, it's better organized rather than just a lot of dense text and stuff. So it seems like there's a lot of worthwhile things but there's certainly plenty of points raised that we want to be careful and make sure we're not, no unintended consequences and whatever else. So many eyes and many hands working together seem to be the best way to do it. So that's the pitch we're going to make to the two boards and see if everyone buys onto it. So
we'll see. I was thinking that writing this, how do we need to interface with
once we like what we have, we'll take it to the planning board, and they'll see if they like what we have. And then if everyone likes what we have, it'll get plugged into one or the other. So if the recode seems to be moving forward, we'll get it plugged into that. If recode doesn't move forward, we'll get it plugged into the current zoning code. So
okay.
They've already got a piece that'll be at this town meeting for what they call a de minimis development. What prompted this is there's a tow company that went in with the accountant, used to be on Union Park. And if you follow our zoning code, literally, they had to have an engineer and do all kinds of plans, and it's really just a real small conversion you could sketch by hand and stuff. So it will take some of the smaller stuff, not have to go to planning board, not have to spend as much money on consultants and things. That went through the planning board January, February. So that'll be on the current town meeting warrants to do those things. So that's it, just town meeting and trying to navigate through recode and find some compromise. That's what we're working on.
In last month, you said you had been approached by a data center, and now there's this big whoop going on in the legislature about it.
Yeah, I haven't heard from them since. I put them in touch with Dan Catlin that owns that 100-acre, he doesn't own it. He represents the Allens that own the 100-acre piece across the highway. And he talked to them, and I think they're still talking a little, but it's nothing imminent, I should say. And with what the legislature did, I guess it's definitely nothing imminent. So
yeah,
less than 2 megawatts.
Cool. All right.
Actually, yeah. Well, I don't know if it's probably more related to the climate action plan than energy. But Ed Karen got really excited the other day because there's a company in Lisbon that thinks they actually can recycle glass, which is quite a challenge.
Yes.
And Ed was he took Josh, our new deputy public works director, up to the statewide solid waste conference and things. And the guy in Lisbon said he's looking for a test municipality in each county, and wonder if Ed would be willing, since we already pretty much are sorting out our household glass, and they want to sort it by color. So he said, I'll give you bins, and he says, you don't even have to break it. In fact, he said, I'd rather you don't break it because it gets too heavy for the truckloads if you have packed glass. But he said, I'll give you the bins, and if you put your glass in there, I think I've got a market for it if I can get it sorted by color and stuff. So Ed's signing up for that. And because when people go to the transfer station, you probably know when you're there, you put the consumer glass, in the bread things or whatever. And so then our staff will just take it, whether it's clear, green, whatever, put it in the right bin. And it actually might get used for something as opposed to being like landfill cover or something else.
Right. Cool. Hey, it's one of the few positive things about recycling that I've heard in a long time.
And even better,
recycling.
So our choices right now with it are putting it in our inert landfill, or we could send it to Eco Maine and then they pile it in Portland in case they can find someone that needs it for landfill or whatever else. But if we start sending it to Portland, we have to pay trucking for it, and it's quite heavy. So it could do quite a bit to our trucking budget. This guy's gonna haul it off for free. So it may actually get recycled and we won't have to pay trucking. So it's like, so that's my best sustainability news for this month.
That's good.
We'll take
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Any chance we're gonna get paid for it eventually? If it
I
works
guess it would
out?
depend how well the market develops, but
Right.
at this point, if we're getting rid of it for a good purpose without it cost us any money,
Right.
we figure, hey, that's a win.
Why not?
Yeah.
Because some of our other recycling, like we paid a shift to Portland to Echo, Maine, and we did get our first check back from them, though, couple months ago. I think it was what, $300 or $400, but it's more than we got from Casella ever. So
Wow.
it's we're moving in the right direction, I think. We've been happy with Echo, Maine.
Well, I mean, there's a chance we'll be able to lower property taxes soon.
But, well, next year may, well, actually, I'm not gonna promise you lower property taxes. But next year, I think we may get more revenue out of the new EPR program, you know,
Mhm.
because
Good.
we're supposed to start getting some money for that in 2027.
All right, nice. Okay.
All right, old business.
Mhm.
Let's see, anything to discuss on invasive species?
I have confirmed with Vander, and I had a email conversation with, I never can remember how to pronounce her name, but anyway, the head of the Conservation Commission. And, so they're all set to work with us to make that happen. I don't think there's a whole lot they'll need to do. We'll just have to decide when we get closer, just what we want to have happen. But she and I are going to meet for coffee at some point to talk about other possibilities for collaboration, like the natural areas plan. So I won't commit us to anything, but I'm glad that finally we're gonna have some dialogue.
Yeah.
Does someone want to volunteer to put together a timeline for publicizing the event and so that we can just stay on top of that over the next few months?
I'm not familiar enough with what the requirements are for getting things into other things. I'm happy to write the stuff and get it there.
I'll give you a tip. So if we want it in the August crier, which comes around on August 1st,
Yeah,
we'll want to make sure we get it into the town ad that we finish around September 20th.
okay.
Sorry,
Yeah.
July 20th.
July, I was gonna say,
yeah.
that doesn't sound right.
So if you give me something you want for an ad by, say, shortly after 4th of July weekend, we
Right.
can make sure to take space for that and we'll plug it in. That's probably the hardest timeline part. I mean, Jeff can do the sign and things in 5-minute notice. But the crier takes mostly.
Well, and we can talk a little bit more about your ideas, Carl,
Sure.
about how to get more interest in these things. Okay, so do we want to, my goal with this meeting is to, within the next 15 minutes, let's start workshopping the ordinance. So we're gonna try and move here. Are there any other educational sessions that we want to discuss today?
Well,
Nick,
I've been
did you-
in
did
touch
you reach
with the person in Maine Community Power Cooperative. She's, generally good with sometime in June. She wants to know more about what we want, so we, at some point we should discuss that. It occurred to me that, I didn't want it to be just like an advertising event for one company, so I wasn't sure, just how we felt about that. They're qualitatively different than all of the other community solar deals, because it is a cooperative that you join. So maybe it's different enough, and maybe they're focused on, reaching out and accounts for low-income people is enough to carry the day. I don't know, what do you guys think? You know, to just have it be with them. Any thoughts?
Do you anticipate their, and maybe you said this just now, but do you anticipate them talking about general Maine programs for discounted energy or for, you know, or even how to sign up to alternative,
To
other, like you just go on, you know, CMP says in your bill, you don't have to do what we tell you to do, go here. Is that kind of the flavor of what we're talking about, or is it?
well, I think the flavor will be to describe their program, and, you know, tell people about what the, you know, the bullet points are and, you know, encourage them to sign up for that particular program.
Mhm.
So I guess we want to be, you know, I don't know, I felt like it, you know, it might be an issue. It might be better for it to be broader and, you know, try to find some other, you know, just some of the other ones like Nexamp, you know, has the, actually, I think they sold, but, you know, Nexamp has facilities all over Maine. You know,
Who's the group that does the solar? Is it Maine Community Solar? Is that? Because I feel like there's a group that can put you in touch with the solar providers like Nexamp and,
yeah, and they're kind of like resellers, I think.
okay. That's like another general.
Mhm.
I don't know.
Years ago, there was someone, I think from the public advocate's office, that came and spoke when I used to be in Kiwanis, that came to talk about how to choose electric providers and things. And
Okay.
I don't know if there's someone in the public advocate's office that would have information on different ways to select your power or how to get a cheaper one.
Like a starting, like a half hour kind of a thing. I don't know how.
Well, I can look into that for sure. You know, I guess so. It kind of sounds like maybe people think that that would be a little bit too much like
Sales pitch.
like sign up.
Yeah, I mean, I like the,
Okay.
like, maybe we make it broader, like options for going solar. And if we could cover the plug-in solar, we could cover
Right,
rooftop solar, we could cover community solar. And just have like a brief presentation on each one. Something like that.
That's good. You know, pluses and minuses of each method.
Yeah,
Mhm.
or like, you know, whatever your budget is,
Right.
or whatever you wanna do.
right.
I mean, you know, it's the easy button to reach out to somebody at Revision or Maine Solar Solutions or something like that to
Right.
come in and, you know, sort of like what Andrew did. And he wasn't, you know, he was kind of selling Revision, but he was giving a lot of, you know, really basic information. And, you know, Revision dabbles in, I don't think they dabble in the subscription type of community solar, but they do have solar farms and you can buy a share in the farm, which is a large step up from where Maine Community Power Cooperative is, which, you know, you're buying into a co-op and then they're building small facilities all over the state.
Selling credits,
Yeah, I mean,
or at least that's the one I'm familiar with.
yeah, this is different.
Okay.
Actually, whatever power you use, you get charged for at their rate. And you actually pay the full bill to them and then they pay the usage charges to CMP and,
Oh, okay.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, it's sort of like a low level, it's like a cooperative buy-in rather than a, you know, a share buy-in.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway. I don't know. Well, I'm a little worried about it, you know. I mean, after I started thinking about it. So I don't know, maybe I should be tasked with doing some quick thinking about that and try to reach out and see who else is out there that could give, sort of a more generalized thing. The only thing in favor of this, that's like hands down in favor of it is that they're the only ones who are, have an interest or a program for signing up people that are at lower incomes. And that's, sort of taken care of, in their model. And there aren't any others that I know of that, that are, more available to people on low incomes.
I mean, do you think they'd be willing to just talk about community solar in general and the different flavors of community solar with, like, obviously the ability to plug their co-op?
Well, I don't see why not. I mean, it's kind of easy to talk about all the others when you have the best deal,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just to outline the possibilities. Because I mean, one thing that's happening is, they came out with this 20% discount. Well, it seems like everybody else has nudged up from 10 to 15%, so the deals are getting a little bit better, sort of because of competition. So I don't know, maybe that would work.
Do they have, I think how to say this. Do they have income limits? In other words, if you make over a certain amount of money, you're not eligible to use them?
No, not that I know of.
Okay.
Yeah. You just, you get a standard discount, down to a certain income level. And then, below that, you get an extra 5%, 20% off.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But it is a little bit different. It's 20% off the whole bill, including CMP's
Oh,
usage charges, so it's actually quite a bit better.
yeah.
That's a pretty
Your
big
15% deals are more like 11% when you get, after you get done, figuring in
Right,
the
it's only
usage
15% on the production.
on the production, on the power itself. So yeah, maybe I should just call her back and, discuss that and just tell her, we can't really have this be a sign-up event for you guys, but,
Right.
if you, if they can speak more generally about the whole
Concept and different
concept of
options
community
within.
solar, you could go with this, I'm pretty sure, I don't know why they wouldn't do that, so.
Now you pay them and then you get credits you can use to CMP, or you just pay CMP and.
You buy in for $100,
Yeah,
then you're in the co-op. Down to a certain income level, you get 15%. And what you do is you select, you can pay them and pay CMP at the same time, but you can also just pay directly to them. They pay CMP for transmission.
Right.
And for the power, so that, it's 15 or 20% off of the total bill.
because, well, I was wondering, and it might be interesting if they could address, if they presented, is CMP has come a couple times and done kind of like the afternoon to help people with their power bills. So if someone comes in and they're behind on their bill, they help them figure out ways to structure things and make plans. But if you're signed up for this, sounds like a lot of your bill isn't being paid to CMP, you're paying the company. So I wonder what they do to help, especially if they've got a lot of low-income people that are maybe struggling for the bills. I wonder what they do if someone gets behind. Do they immediately get cut off, or is there a way that
Oh,
they help work with people? Or
yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. What's that?
I said, especially maybe even at the beginning, when they're looking at this program, they may already be behind, so how do they
Right.
rectify that with CMP?
that's a good question too.
All right, well,
Interesting. Okay.
I think the next step is for you to maybe reach out and propose this broader concept. I think that could be a standalone session.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot less work for us to organize with potentially multiple speakers.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is helpful. I didn't know quite, where to go. I wanted to, bring that here, and just get a better sense of, where to go with that conversation with her. So, I mean, she's all in. I just have to tell her what it's gonna be. And, Old Man's Brain or whatever, did we decide on a date? We haven't really decided on dates yet,
Not on
right?
a specific one, no.
Yeah.
We thought about June since
Yeah.
we're having an event in August. already.
Yeah, so we're still sort of generally in June sometime.
Okay, because if we wanted to do June,
Running up
we're running
against.
out of.
We're running out of
time to-
time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
get the word
is
out.
there a particular reason to have it in June? Why not? I think it would be far better to plan it so that we have time to make sure we know what we're asking of them
Mhm.
and that they know what we want. So that, we had it in September or October.
Oh.
And I don't think that the invasive species one is going to be a lot of work for us, other than
Mhm.
making sure all the pieces are together. It's just not that much to do. Somebody else is doing all the presenting.
Yeah, the
Mhm.
only downside is there's a wait to get, like, once you sign up, you're on a waiting list in order for a
Yes.
project to get
True,
built, and so the longer we wait, the longer
right.
it'll take for our community members to get access to it, but.
Right,
Could do July, maybe.
I mean, I don't think there's anything terribly wrong with having, two very different workshops.
Pretty
month
close
after month.
together, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
fine with that
Sure.
too.
Yeah, so
Absolutely.
maybe we'll just punt to July and I'll see what I get for,
Okay.
the conversation.
I'm okay
Okay.
with that.
Okay.
Okay, and then maybe Carl, maybe we will punt your thing to
That's
the
fine.
next meeting, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Did everyone have a chance to at least look at what he, okay,
It's very useful.
Yeah, I sent it like yesterday evening, so. or
yeah,
morning or
maybe,
something,
maybe
so
next
it's not-
meeting we can work on some content and clarify our approach for advertising these two
Sure.
sessions. We'll make
Yeah,
sure
just
we
the-
carve out time next time.
Concept and intent, I think is awesome.
Yeah.
Just, last old business before we get to the battery ordinance stuff is, updates to the Energy Committee webinars page. I haven't checked it to see. Do we make those? Are we supposed to provide content for that?
Good question. Trying to remember. I think I probably offered, I could put whatever you want, but I don't think.
Okay, yeah, it doesn't look updated, so someone on our committee needs to write the
You
content.
give me text, I'll plug it in, yeah.
Okay.
The video's on the YouTube channel. But,
Does someone want to volunteer to rewrite our webinar page?
What are you looking for specifically?
Well, it's out of date, and we want it to be a resource for community members so that they can go there and see a little blurb about what the webinar is and then link to the video. Or resources.
I wouldn't mind taking a look at it and. Something.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, Carl.
What's a good format for proposing, like a Word document?
Yeah, words fine,
That's a
something I can
start.
cut and paste from.
Okay. You're mostly content, not formatting and of headers and like, do you want me to be like, have this color red, bold size?
Yeah,
14.
no,
No,
I'd say
okay.
mostly content. And
Okay,
then, because
okay.
we try to keep, not saying we're perfect at this, but the website tries to keep roughly the same size for headings. and
Okay,
Right.
I assume so, but
Colors.
just wanted to check, okay.
we had a Bowden student a couple summers ago that was religious about it. She went through and got everything consistent,
That's
but as
good.
time goes on, things diverge a little.
Yeah.
Zoom.
I sent you an invite to be a panelist.
We need to click something.
See, I'll send it again. Do you have a choice to be promoted to panelist?
Oh, yep, it popped up there.
And I'm sorry, that's the Energy Committee webinar site.
Yeah, if you have trouble finding the page, I can send you the link.
And then I think I set it so you can share your screen, Stephanie. I guess we're not gonna be any of the participants. I'll get rid of this. See more.
Okay. So, what I've done on this document is I've just literally copied and pasted out of the Maine guidebook published by the DOER. But this top portion is a screenshot of one of the slides from that DOER
Mhm.
webinar. Because I thought it was just a helpful high-level overview of what each section
Very much
Yes.
so, thank you.
All right. I don't know if we need to discuss anything about this first paragraph about how it's supposed to be incorporated into our zoning districts.
Even the only thing I add is we kind of talked about doing, when I was talking with Sky and Josh, an overlay zone that within so many feet of that power line that goes by Business Farm and stuff, so that you probably wouldn't want to build this if you're far from a power line, major transmission line anyway, but.
But that overlay zone is separate from the ordinance itself? Or is it
We would,
part of?
it's probably worth, for purposes of right now, we'd reference it, and then we'll plug it in exactly in the recode, depending on how things are divided. And I just said that, but I think we only want the overlay zone to apply to the, say, the commercial ones. Because this ordinance looks like it also contemplates if I wanted to put a system in my house. So we don't want to limit those to just the overlay. This is the commercial ones we want to limit to the overlay.
Yeah, I mean, there was the definition of, if it was powered to be consumed on site.
Yeah.
Versus
Then
export,
that could be anywhere in town,
right.
but for the,
And there was other places where, it was 2 megawatts, which is pretty good sized battery. So that would cover most, like, a battery for Lee Toyota or something like that, smallish.
I guess what they call them is what, accessory, yeah.
Yeah.
So you could have an accessory anywhere in town,
Yeah.
but the non-accessory, what do they call the non-accessory? It says BESS, that a primary use of the property. So that would be the type that needs to be in the BESS overlay zone.
Mhm.
There was a section in the handbook that suggested like a matrix of
Yeah.
zones where, is that kind of what we're talking about?
Yeah, I just pulled that up. Oh, sorry, I have to share.
Our zoning code does have a matrix of different uses you can do in whatever zone.
Okay.
But I think this may be simpler than that, because we probably want to allow the accessory, anyone's house or business that wanted to have a battery storage that services them. But the big, large grid scale, we probably just want to have near that transmission line corridor.
Yeah, this is what Carl's referring to, in the this is the handbook itself, and it has an example permitted use table.
So that's different yeah, the zoning, like in our talk or the RICO talk, it might be downtown district, let's see, Topsham Fair Mall Zone, they're different names, but they're, other than that. But I think the, I mean, obviously, whatever you guys think is more important than what I think, but I would say the accessory use, we could do in every district
Yeah.
throughout town.
Yeah,
And then for the grid scale, it would just be this over, like we have a mobile park overlay, so certain parts of town, you can put a mobile park. It kind of spans different zoning districts. So in the same way, the transmission line, it goes through industrial by Grimmel's, and then it goes through, I think it's R3 by Bisson Farm, rural residential zone 3, and then it may go into a different zone at some point.
Okay.
Um,
So it essentially follows that transmission line through
Exactly,
the town.
within so many feet of it, I don't know if we say 500 feet or whatever number we want.
Is there just one transmission line? Primary?
Could support this,
Yeah.
I don't know the answer to that. So this line used to have Maine Yankee power, I guess, so
Oh.
this line is a big one.
And
well, so I mean, then you could have the same thing if somebody had a, 20 acres on the Cat Ants Road because that same power line goes
Right.
across.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I think we don't necessarily need to prohibit that, right? As long as they're close to the line, I don't think we care if they're Cat Ants Road or distance, or do we?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think we'll get into some of that, right?
Yeah.
Around like agricultural land and things like that. Like we might want to prohibit it from certain zones.
Well, I mean, you could have that issue with Bisson's, I mean, they're not proposing to do this on agricultural land. It's gonna be a forest piece, I believe, right?
Right.
Yeah. But if they wanted to do it right in the middle of the cornfield, maybe we don't really want that.
I think, yeah.
I would think if you're close enough to the power line, I think we're okay with it. I mean, if that's.
it's not just the power line too, because it could be a solar storage. Or is solar always next to a distribution line?
If it's grid scale, I think whether it's solar or the battery, it needs to be near the power line to be useful.
How
Yeah.
it mixes into each other.
It's how it gets in the electrical grid. So if you're far from it, I guess there's too much construction involved with building the lines that
Yeah.
makes the project maybe not viable anymore.
But you wouldn't anticipate if going with the overlay zone would then leave out solar, not grid capacity, but solar BES.
So
that makes sense.
what you're saying is maybe we have a solar farm in another place that's connected to the grid.
That
And if we're
also,
limiting the grid scale ones to really close to the big transmission line, maybe that farm couldn't have an incorporated BES as part of their project. It's
part
already
of the
got
solar
sufficient
project
transmission lines.
itself.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's what I'm. Does
Well,
that make
and
any
I
sense?
guess my question is, why would we want to limit it to an overlay zone if we're okay with it being in any kind of zone in the town? Why would we want to limit it at all?
Yeah.
What's the point of limiting it?
Yeah, good point. Yeah, we don't want.
So potentially the rest of the ordinance would then box out like where in those zones you could put it. Like the noise, you have to be so noisy, right? So then, okay, you could put it in the Topsham Fair Mall, but then it would be disqualified because it's gonna be noisy if it's put next to McDonald's or something.
And the economics are probably gonna just keep it relatively close anyway.
that
to
too.
the-
Yeah, I think the project itself will self-select toward the transmission line.
Yeah, so maybe we don't need to make the overlay, just.
One of the big things with the solar ordinance is, we wanted to discourage from building on prime farmland and, habitat blocks, contiguous habit, high value conservation land. So I don't know if that I mean, it could come into play here because power lines do go through farms and forests and whatnot. Something to think about.
So you said the solar ordinance discourages?
Yeah, I mean, well, we had mitigation fees, you know, for mostly for higher value conservation land. We could look at that and see if there's any correlation.
That we kind of batted around was whether we wanted a setback from, say, the shoreline zone or something, just in case it did catch fire, so we're not putting the pollutants right into the Canyons River or something, you know, some gap or area to try to stop things before they run in.
Would it have to meet existing setback requirements from streams, and like, was it 100 feet or something from a stream is what?
So if they're, that have certain permitting that have to get from DEP or maybe
Right.
Army Corps of Engineers, if they're close to water, things.
Right.
But, so they're not gonna be able to put it right on top of the water anyway.
Right.
Maybe we want it further back, just so we don't get, let's say it does catch fire and we've got water spraying on it, which may or may not accomplish much, but it's for sure gonna be probably washing acid or whatever
Are there,
towards water supply.
are there containment requirements, do you know, for these things?
For the runoff from
Yeah, for any-
firefighting or
well,
something?
any type of, not just fires, but if there was a leak or if there was,
What if they're in that NFPA?
yeah, I was just gonna take a look. I just,
Just have to bring it with
I
you.
think
Shut
the batteries themselves are sealed. Let's see, and then they're in the box, but it doesn't, I don't think it says like it has to be in a, you know, like how they put the fuel tanks in like a burn, yeah.
yeah,
Cause you can, like, there's good pictures of like Madison in here, and it's just the containers, like either on a concrete pad or on concrete footers. And then the ground.
Yeah.
All right, I'll just document some of our questions as we go. All right, let's maybe keep moving down.
Hmm.
And I think a lot of this will be kind of addressed as we talk through. Okay, so section 100 is about administration, and there's 3 subsections. Authority, it seems pretty straightforward. We would put in Topsham, this ordinance shall be known as the Topsham Battery Energy.
Oh,
Storage.
right, yeah.
Just Topsham?
Yeah.
Battery Energy Storage System.
Or I think Town of Topsham is what they're contemplating.
Oh, town/city.
Oh, I get it now. I don't know why I was trying to know
I
that.
did not get it either.
It is adopted pursuant to the enabling provisions of the Maine Constitution and the provisions of. This is some state law?
That home rule that basically
Okay.
says, unless the state expressly prohibits you from doing something, you're allowed to have local ordinances in that. So,
Purpose is to allow for responsible development of battery energy storage systems in a manner that supports renewable energy while establishing reasonable standards to protect neighboring properties, public health and safety, and the natural environment.
Okay.
Applicability shall apply to all best. So this is where I think we might want to consider tiers, right? The different tiers of sizing.
So this seems to contemplate just 2 tiers. One is a size that primarily services the building or lot that it's on. And then the other is one that provides power primarily offsite.
And where do you see that?
That was
Oh, right below that in 200, definitions, battery energy storage
Yeah.
system.
And then in 202.
I mean, we could have two acronyms, ABES and BES, and therefore, or anything after that was referred to. It's a little bit confusing. Accessory battery, a battery energy storage system that is incidental. If we're defining that, we could just call that an ABES from there on out.
Right.
So that anytime we use the term BES, that, a battery energy storage system, we know that it's primary use on that property.
Yeah, because that's one thing I don't like so much about this one. I think 201 is supposed to apply to all the systems. And then they've got 202 that the definition that limits just to accessory. But they don't really have a definition for the stuff that is an accessory or name to make it easier, I think, if we call the rest something else. Maybe we'd call it offsite or non-accessory so much, but it seems like we should have another definition there. It's basically whatever is an accessory.
And it does it distinguish any further around the size? That's applicable?
No, basically, which I don't, Jeff, does the NFPA distinguish on the size? Because if they don't, then maybe we don't want to, maybe it's good enough just to say offsite and accessory, like they do here.
Well, then at 302, 303, they're, sort of defining accessory battery energy storage is subjected to the review by the codes enforcement officer, and BES that are primary use of the property are subject to site plan review. Yeah, we probably really need to just define that, because we're really going to drop accessory. After the initial definition, accessory is just going to sort of fall off. And we're really just going to be talking about the primary.
I guess we could just, maybe we call the accessory like they did here, but we call the other one grid scale BES or something.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And the definition of the grid scale BES is
Primary use of the property.
or not, how do they phrase it?
NFPA is gonna break it down way too much for you, it's gonna be really confusing.
Okay.
I think it goes into all the different levels.
So they define accessory as a battery storage system that is incidental to the principal use of the lot and is intended primarily to store energy for on-site consumption.
Right.
So we could have a definition, say grid scale battery energy storage system is all other battery storage systems.
So it would be a third definition?
No, it kind of, they don't really include it the second. It seems like it would simplify things later, but they keep having to say grid scale that's intended not for use of the property, blah, blah, blah. But if we actually called it something, or they don't say grid scale, we'd say grid scale battery storage system is any battery storage system other than an accessory.
So it's a third definition, it would be like.
Yeah, third definition, right?
203 grid scale.
Yeah. Call it back to 201 by calling it a BES. That is.
And where was it that, they would divide, maybe it wasn't in here between, below 2 megawatt and above 2 megawatt.
I think that is because the state law specifies the DEP controls the decommissioning requirements.
Oh, that's
If
where it
you're
was.
2 megawatts or more. Whereas if you're less than 2 megawatts, then the town would want to
there
have a
it is, yeah.
decommissioning process.
Decommissioning, right?
So everything in 201 is a battery storage system if it's designed to store energy. 202 says the accessory ones are the ones that are just built to support the property's on-site use, basically, or primarily on-site. And then the next definition is a grid scale battery storage energy system is any other
Mhm.
type than an accessory one.
Would we want to say that the accessory battery system is up to, or, below 2 megawatts? Just to make it kind of simple?
I think maybe not, because I don't think, we don't want to, I think we could end up with I think we're mixing two definitions, so we could end up with something not covered. I gotta think of the example of that, but
Kind of mixing the zone code with the.
yeah, with the state
this.
law.
Yeah, because if something technology changes, you're gonna potentially have problems with it, so.
And
It's similar to what we did with the outdoor wood boiler thing, right?
Yeah.
It technology became greater, and then some of these smaller ones started not complying. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Like a fast charge and discharge, less than 2 megawatt grid scale. I don't know, or something crazy like that.
And if we're gonna call out the NFPA battery storage code, it's basically, I don't think we want a number that could potentially conflict with that either. If Jeff says this is a number of different thresholds in there. But, so I think if we simply say accessory is the thing you're using on site. But
Yeah.
now, let's say it's a big, I don't think we have one, but maybe your countertop place really expands. We have a manufacturing facility in Topsham that has a really big on-site one. It's still only accessory, so they might not have to do our decommissioning stuff, but there may be, just
Yeah.
based on the level they are in the fire code, maybe there's extra things they would have to do.
Yeah, big facility.
And they would maybe, if they're over, I don't think you'd be over 2 megawatt for, I guess if you had a paper mill maybe or something, you would potentially. Then you'd have to comply with the state requirements for decommissioning, so. So I don't think we want to divide ours.
yeah, no,
further
I think that's right.
than on-site versus off-site use.
Yeah, yeah.
Are we tying these definitions back to the applicability? Or are we saying that the ordinance is applicable to all of those defined?
The way this ordinance seems to be
Yes,
contemplated is it's applicable to everything, but the level of review is different depending on whether it's accessory or what we're gonna call a grid scale.
So
So
we'll
with
have to,
accessory, seems like it all says that the appropriate NFPA stuff applies, but the accessory, the code enforcement officer can inspect and make sure it looks like it follows. Whereas the grid scale stuff is gonna have to go to the planning board to get their approval. And this says he can kick things to the planning board if for some reason he thought it needed, even in an accessory use. Or she, currently have a mill. Code enforcement officer.
Mhm.
So for 303, do we need to change that to say grid scale vests that are,
Yeah, I'd say, yeah, I think it would make things simpler.
and remove the reference to the primary use of the property?
Yep.
do we expect to give Tom a kick at the can at this?
Looking at
At all?
it, absolutely.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
Definitely. Yeah, I like that at the discretion of the CEO, he could kick it to the planning board. If a business wanted to put in a 5 megawatt unit
Right,
and, say they were gonna private, that would have to go. So, yeah.
And right now, our code enforcement officer doesn't review batteries.
I believe so. You think that's accurate?
That he doesn't?
Yeah.
Probably not.
So I know we talked a little bit about, do we include something for kind of like a residential style battery or not? I did go to the building science and beer event, and someone from Revision named Luke, I can't remember his last name, presented. And he was saying that Revision, when they install batteries at homes, regardless of that specific town's zoning or building permit process, they're building toward the handful of towns that have implemented guidelines or regulations for, and it's related to how far away from a window is the thing. I think there's sometimes like interior versus exterior installation. So I don't know, I'm happy to maybe reach out to Andrew, because we have a connection with Andrew, to ask if they know what other towns have implemented guidelines and if we want to maybe try and look at that language or not. Because right now, I think this is like pointing projects to our code enforcement officer, but then what does he do with it?
Well, yeah, I mean, if you don't have anything for him to inspect off of, he's not gonna.
He's not gonna, yeah, so I don't know, anyway, it just seems like we should try and get a little more information about what other towns are doing, but I thought it was interesting that Revision's tact is to just install these systems to those requirements regardless of where they're
Well,
installed.
they probably figure these regulations are coming down the
Yeah.
pike for some of them, but on the other hand too, they're being installed by licensed contractors, which is, I mean, and if you're a licensed contractor, you're held to a certain standard. So a lot of it won't even matter, because a lot of it will just be done automatically because the electrical stuff has to be done this way. And so Tom will end up, if we do the permit thing, all that stuff will be kind of guaranteed off their license. So it'll be the little stuff that locally we want to make sure of, that should be in this.
So the electrical code probably has standards for these.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So to get your electrical permit, there's some type of inspection that Tom would probably do then.
Probably, but he's probably going to, in Tom's defense, I mean, it's kind of similar to generators, you know, he can go out and see if it looks good, but a lot of the stuff's behind closed doors, and it has to be a listed product, has to be installed in accordance with this listing. A licensed electrician has to set it up, so it's all these pieces that try to guarantee that it's okay. So he's not really looking at all that stuff. He's looking at the town of Topsham wants it 10 feet away from the window. The town of Topsham says it wants to be, has to be this quiet, or it has to be one of these types, something like that. But a lot of this stuff is going to be covered by other standards, the electrical standards, and NFPA 70 will cover the electrical side of this stuff. So I don't know. I don't know what he would be expecting. I guess I'm trying to say, I don't think you're in a really bad spot where you are right now. It's not like he's missing a whole bunch of stuff by not being out there. When you build this and you start putting stuff in here that you want inspected based off of permit, then yeah, we'd be missing that if it didn't send it out. But right now, it's fine.
So I feel like this is saying that he's gonna take a look at the plans and specs put together by the companies before it's approved
As
for
part of
the permit.
process.
I think that's what this is saying. He may then also go out and do an inspection after it's installed.
And again, those plans are probably gonna be super boilerplate plans. If it's
Yeah,
coming,
that's
if somebody's putting a charger in their house or
I think
something.
the 400 level performance specs start talking about that, or maybe maybe that's not performance, maybe that's planning. That's planning.
So when it gets submitted to him, though, if he's doing it for a permit review, he'd be looking for things like, you know, are they gonna use a listed product? Is it gonna be installed by a licensed professional? Do we have that license information? That kind of stuff. And then they go and take a boilerplate piece, put it in, and it's, I can't, maybe some cases are a little bit more complicated, but it's probably not.
So don't overthink this, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's good to think of moving forward, but this book controls all of that stuff as it moves forward, and there's no way we can expect our code enforcement officer to understand every system that's out there. So it's gonna be very license dependent.
I think that's true. The only thing that I've thought about in relation to that is, seems like the fire department should have a roster or, a list of batteries that are installed in different places around town, just so they know that they might be going into a certain situation. Which would speak to, having some kind of a, permit to
Oh,
install a
absolutely.
battery.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm sorry if I sounded like I was anti-permit. I'm definitely for permits. I just.
so something has to be built to bring batteries into the permit process at this point, for Tom, or is it?
Yes, we would have to add into the ordinance that you're requiring a permit for these. Right?
I think so, yeah,
Yeah.
permit, and you need to, have the UL listing and.
Right, and that whatever device they were looking at would have to be installed in accordance. Would have to meet 855 and NFPA 70 and all the applicable codes. And then that permit gets the fire department what they need to put it in their stuff. And it gives Tom what he needs to hold other people accountable. But as far as him going out and I guess that was my point.
Yeah.
As far as him going out and inspecting every one of these at the detail of what this book says, that's not a
Right.
realistic
Yeah.
expectation.
Right. But the electrician should probably have to, submit the manufacturer's installation
Yep.
guidelines, because
Yep.
there's spacing and
Yep.
there's, sizes of conduit and all kinds of
Yep.
things that are really specific.
Well,
to that.
the way the state of Maine works is if it's a UL or if it's a listed device and installed in accordance with its listing, the listing is going to supersede the code. So if there's a minimum standard that they can get lower because they've got a tested product, they can use that.
Right, right.
So how about if we said something like, under 302, accessory battery energy storage systems are permitted by and subject to review by the CEO.
Yay.
Mhm.
Subject to zoning and or dimension requirements. Do we add listing, or what kind of a thing is a UL?
No, UL is it's just one type, but it's a third-party independent.
Underwriters laboratory.
It's a third-party independent testing company. Big companies will pay money to have their product
Yeah.
tested and listed. Which I'm sure that all these are. I
Yeah,
find it hard to believe.
nothing gets sold without that, that I know of.
And so to your point too, Nick, do we include any language in and around there talking about this list of installed batteries for use of the fire department? Anywhere in here, or is that just kind
I
of
think
off
that's
to the side thing?
Internal policy.
Yeah, I think that's just something
Okay.
that gets done when they have the,
Okay.
the application.
We've got a new GIS map you can actually get to on the town website. It's got public layers and private layers. So we could insert a private layer that would have all the battery permits and the volt, megawatt, whatever, not megawatts, but whatever many watts. So that the fire department could access that easily, things or. But if we write in here, it's a requirement to do that. And then, God forbid, something happens, it doesn't get done, and we get probably a plaintiff's lawyer suing us that someone got hurt because we didn't maintain the database or something, so.
Mhm. Okay,
I think we want, I'm not sure the exact words, but I think we want a little more in 302. We're saying you have to get your permit from the CEO. But we haven't really said how he's judging it.
Well,
What he's applying.
yeah, I mean, this is the part where I think you want to be careful because there's enough codes and standards. It would appear out there right now that, you could list them, or you could. You want to have a permit given, for the installation of these products, that ultimately meet the applicable standards and codes.
So right now it only says meet all applicable zoning and or dimensional requirements. In this part, I think there is something later that talks about meeting fire code stuff.
I personally think the fire code stuff should be under the review section 2.
So it could
Or
say
any and all applicable fire, zoning,
building,
building.
does building include electrical, or you have to say electrical specifically?
Maine.
You could just write,
Maine building
and
codes.
if you could actually write applicable NFPA codes, because NFPA 70 is the electrical code, and they're all kind of, Maine's an NFPA state, so they're all kind of, you would kind of catch them all if you didn't know.
yeah, that kind of covers it.
So if we said shall meet all applicable NFPA codes and zoning and other dimensional indoor dimensional requirements.
Is there a section in this ordinance that's gonna have reference material? Like in all these books in chapter 2, it's reference publications. And
Hmm.
if you said all applicable codes and you had a section of what those might look like,
Mhm.
then it'd be easier to update as time goes on. If you wanted to change dates, because I mean, I worry about getting too specific because the minute you start referencing a single document, then you have to do the date, right? Because
Yeah, things get
this one's the
changed.
2023 version and it's gonna change in a couple of years and stuff, so. I mean, any and all applicable
Can you just
laws and
do
standards
Maine state?
as required by the,
Who decides what's applicable? If it's too vague,
yeah,
Couldn't you just say current, rather than giving a date?
say what?
Current,
Oh, current? That, I don't want to overcomplicate things, but I don't think so. Because current might not be adopted. So it.
Hmm.
So this is the version of NFPA right now that's currently adopted in the state of Maine, but when they come out with the 2027,
Mhm.
that may not get adopted for a couple of years, but it's the current model code. So it just
but if
adds.
it hasn't been adopted, does it have to be followed?
No.
Then
No,
wouldn't that still, that would?
it still would, but if you were reading that document for current code, which one would you be talking about?
It hasn't been adopted, without it.
That's what I would. That's what I would think. I'm just trying to
That's how
eliminate,
I define current.
that's how I'm just trying to eliminate confusion, because there are books out there that are newer that don't get adopted.
Mm.
So.
And we rely on Tom and or, his future successor to know what those are,
Yes.
to be up on that. But maybe what if we just say NFPA zoning and, applicable NFPA zoning and, or building codes? I
I
mean,
think NFPA has to be in front of applicable. So meet all NFPA,
There's,
or you're,
could be some.
is
NFPAs
NFPA
that
now, or
are
you
not.
didn't want to get that specific?
No, I think you can say national, list out all applicable NFPA codes, because there's literally hundreds of them. And they'll cover everything if they're adopted. So that's the applicable part. If they're adopted, they'll cover everything from this, they'll cover your
Yeah.
building code side of things, they'll cover if the place
Right.
needs a fire alarm, what it needs to look like, if it needs to be sprinkled, what
Right.
it needs to look like.
So it'd be all applicable NFPA codes, comma, zoning and or dimensional requirements.
but what is dimensional requirements? I mean, don't we have building codes too?
I think,
Including the electrical code and all?
I think you're saying NFPA brings that in. by
Yeah,
reference.
but I thought the dimensional requirements was a zoning language thing.
Oh, I think it is, yeah,
Okay, so it's not dimensional like
it's probably like setbacks.
buildings,
Yeah.
oh, yeah. So if it's setbacks, then yeah, it should still be in there, because you're only
Yeah.
gonna find that in top. They'll be unique.
This almost looks like site plan type of stuff.
Right, and I think it is, and this is what, you run into a lot of problems with site plan versus building plans.
Mhm.
Because the building plans don't really apply to the site plan. But if you don't know about some of the building plan stuff when you're doing the site plan, you run into trouble. So
Yeah.
I don't necessarily know if NFPA really belongs in there, but I think it's better to have it than to not.
I think we want it somewhere because it looks like this is the only thing requiring a permit for the home system.
Mhm.
And if we want to just have it absolutely covered, it needs to apply, be wired right and be safe fire-wise.
I think the problem is, I think that this is zoning and site plan related, this section. And that's not what this book is, but if you don't tell them about it, they may not know that on this piece of property, because it's where it's located, it needs A, B, and C down the road when you start building it.
And maybe we'll have a better place. Later on, it seems to do all the more complex regulation is just for the grid scale ones.
Right.
But maybe there's a place we want to just add in there. It applies to the accessory one too, I don't know, rather than here, but it's something to think about is somewhere we want to have electrical and fire.
Yeah, I mean,
codes
we gotta
also
have the
apply to whole
electrical.
system.
Code reference somewhere.
That'd be referenced under NFPA too.
It was,
The electrical code actually is an NFPA
oh,
document.
all right, yeah. Okay,
It's the longest and most boring one.
It's huge,
It is huge.
it's huge.
Okay, do we keep going?
yep,
Um,
I don't know, seems like the grid scale best language there is pretty good.
Mhm.
Down to 400.
Now that I'm reading this is only for the planning board.
right, so this is for anything that isn't accessory.
So would the
We should-
permitting process describe what needs to be submitted to Tom then, if this description is only applicable to?
Yeah, you think you'd want the name and contact information on every application, not just the grid scale one.
Yeah, well, right, yeah.
I see what you're saying. I think I see what you're saying though, and it goes back to what I was trying to, explain. This will go to the planning board first before it even hits Tom's desk for the build out.
I don't even think Tom looks at it according to
No.
this.
No, he probably doesn't. But I don't know, maybe we could spend more time on it and see if there's a better way to fit it in, but I just don't want to get into a position where somebody feels like they have enough, because it's a common problem. Somebody feels like they have an approval to move forward because they have a site plan. Right? And so it's kind of like the site plan versus building plan. They're like, they leave the planning board, say, I'm all set, I'm gonna go start my project. There's a whole nother section that needs to be taken into account. So I just don't want to miss that.
This would say you don't need to do, if you have a big grid scale project, you don't need to do any permitting. You just need to get it submitted to the planning board, and then they can say, you're good to go. And I think that's what,
Although later on, there's other stuff.
oh, in 400?
Yeah,
Don't we want to say in the heading for 400,
Oh,
requirements for grid scale battery energy storage systems?
yeah, that sounds good.
I don't think so. Only in case Tom sees a accessory, which then gets kicked to planning board.
Oh, good point.
Because then in that case, you could have an accessory go to planning board and then they're tagged to do all this other stuff.
Right.
Unless we don't want that instance to make them do all this stuff.
I think the only time it would happen would be if something's really big or something. So
Right.
it's probably nice to have him have that option. So you're right, the title's good, I guess.
But we definitely want anything going to the planning board has to meet all of these requirements versus just a simple permit, whatever,
Right.
the accessory. Whatever that ends up looking like. Okay.
So like 402 is the thing that would require the survey and all the wetlands shown and stuff like that.
One thing about 402 that I thought about was, and maybe this is in the fire code review or something, is if it makes sense to have an understanding of prevailing winds at the site as it relates to the, like, light off of one of the containers, and then if it's a particularly windy site and the site is set up in such a way that it then pushes the heat to the next container. So I didn't know if that would be perhaps an interesting piece of information to have for when the fire chief reviews. I don't know if there's any. I don't feel like I've seen anything talk about that at all.
Yeah, I haven't.
Or if it's a worthwhile.
And I think, probably what you're gonna find is distance requirements between containers. And if you look back, and I don't know if there's any published documentation, but my guess is they've come up with those distances with wind direction and stuff in mind, or not direction, but wind impact in mind to a degree.
Yeah.
I don't think that probably any of them are nearly far enough, but that's a minimum standard.
Yeah. And it's interesting at the end of this, it says that the state of Maine hasn't actually adopted 855. It's only the Uniform Fire Code, which has some setback information, but I don't know how it's different than.
I thought we said that they did adopt 8. Oh, no, they haven't yet.
So it was important, whoever was telling us, that
Yes,
in our ordinance, we for Topsham adopt 855.
yes, the intention was to adopt this document locally. Because it's our understanding that this is in the pipe to be adopted to the state, but who knows how long that takes.
Okay.
And then I think we also talked about the fact we even might want to add a couple things. Like I think was it the former fire chief had said he wanted more space between the containers. Like I think 855 is maybe called for 10 feet, and you'd like to see, say, I think 20 throughout. So we probably want to both adopt 855 and perhaps have a couple things that we want to go stronger than
amend it a little
855.
bit.
Yeah,
That would be in the town code,
that'd be somewhere in this.
be in this.
Okay. But
Would it just be referenced? Or would it be, that's a whole nother, sorry.
I think we'll come to it in a few
Yeah,
minutes.
yeah.
But I think probably 402 for itself is okay the way it is. But, you know, the things that you have to put on the plan, so you'd have the key points.
So we would, so that makes sense though, that would be built into whatever provisions in the NFPA document that are adopted and altered.
I think 403 and 404 are all the quick useful information to collect.
Mhm.
405 looks reasonable. Want copies of their DEP and Army Corps engineers.
And do we assume that they know who they have to go to? You know, a developer?
Yeah,
Yeah.
We do, okay.
but this gives the ability for our code enforcement officer to tell them if for some reason they didn't, you know, if they didn't realize they had to go to MDP
Mhm.
because they have to submit applicable, if he decides they're applicable, that they didn't go, they gotta go.
Mhm. Four to 6 seems fine to me.
So 407 is the place that first starts to reference NFPA.
Yeah.
It talks about the emergency response plan.
So where it says applicable, do we want to say something about 855 specifically?
Well, I think that depends on how you want to adopt 855. I think once it's adopted locally, I think we can straight face that it's an applicable standard.
So does 855 also talk about the response plan? What has to be done?
It talks about, I think it does touches on training, I think.
So what does the town have to do to adopt NFPA?
Just pass it at town meeting,
Okay,
or pass this at town meeting if it says that we're gonna adopt 855.
It's got control and suppression operations. It's much more complicated than the site plan stuff, so.
I have a related question.
Yeah,
Does the town, specifically the fire department, have an opinion on how fire suppression is executed on these projects? Meaning for example, we don't want water sprinkler system because it will disperse contaminated water into the ground, or we're just going to let the thing burn. So, don't use this, and this.
I think the fire department's gonna point to standardized best practices.
Just gonna say,
And so basically, unless somebody comes out with something that, is the best and greatest in the future. From what I understand right now is the standard operation for these is to to back off, protect your exposures and whatever.
Yeah, trying to keep the rest of the forest from burning down, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, this is really open-ended and vague. Like it refers to the NFPA, which I think is positive, right? Like whatever NFPA code says, they should absolutely be doing. But we're not imposing anything specific on them with this. This is just
And when Westwind drives, says, what are you doing to protect me? This doesn't show
description
much.
of the training. So we're not really, and we're not adding any additional requirements on top of NFPA with this current language.
No, I thought there was something I was reading that allowed for additional training for the fire departments, conditional approvals based on, where was I reading that today?
It says description of the training or coordination to be provided to local emergency personnel.
I'd almost say, I agree with you, this is probably vague, and
Hmm.
I think it was a useful exercise today to see how much more we probably want. Now it's probably useful to go back and look at some of these other ordinances that you found
Yeah.
and start looking at those and find what pieces we want to import. Yeah.
Well, and involve, I mean, I think our fire department should absolutely be involved in the creation of this paragraph because,
Mhm.
you know, I agree.
They should ask
be
for
much-
they should ask for the moon.
Right, it should be very specific.
And this is
in what
gonna
they
be
want.
the biggest thing that our community, I think, cares about with these systems. So this has to be, we all have to be really good, feeling good about this.
Yeah, and it's not gonna pass if we can't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so we have 2 minutes left. So we obviously need to keep going next time. I'm just thinking.
Because I guess the planning board has to interpret all of what's given to them and this ordinance too, whenever they get a site review, right?
But they have to something to hang their teeth on to make a decision,
Exactly,
which this doesn't give much.
exactly. Sorry.
I think this has been really helpful, though.
Yeah,
For me, at least, seeing the direction that you're looking to go.
yeah, getting into the details.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, oh, we're finally talking about it. This is good. Should we go through anything on here and take notes onto this document or something?
I've been taking notes. as we've
You've been
talking.
taking notes,
And
yeah, but I
making
mean, if
edits.
we're working,
Maybe
Outside of
maybe
here.
homework is to look at some of the other ones.
Yeah,
You know, like I think we said, or someone told us, again, maybe California's overkill.
Yeah.
But
the Massachusetts one might be a good
yeah,
one.
so maybe look at Massachusetts and James City County and
Mhm.
find some aspects that we think are more detailed than we like. Better.
So better to keep notes on the side or taking notes, you know, on a
It can't
something in
hurt to
here.
just add a comment that way you're
comment, that's
not
what I meant. yeah.
editing. Yeah,
Right.
I'd say add all the comments you want to this thing.
That's on the drive.
It's in the drive, yeah, and I
Add a
shared it via
comment,
email.
I'm
Um,
sorry if I already mentioned it, but municipalities that have already done this, is there a lot in Maine, or is there any in Maine?
Probably Gorham must have.
Gorham, I think
Madison.
Madison
Because
also.
Gorham's got the existing place, yeah.
A couple others listed in here somewhere. There's a bunch of example ones.
Yeah, I don't know if the Bowdoin.
Here we go,
interns
Rumford.
also
Go
The
on.
what?
Make note of that
Rumford.
in their
Oh,
write-in.
yeah, Rumford
I'll
is
find it.
on the verge or something, I think.
Okay,
Building
and
already?
then the
Is that
other,
right?
just really quick,
Oh, there you go.
I think this is really the last thing on our agenda for today, is that Kurt Mainland at Vermont Law offered to support us, I think, more fully if we wanted, and that they are securing funding for themselves to be able to do that. So I was just gonna write back to him and say, yes, unless anyone here doesn't think that's a good idea.
I think it's an awesome
Okay.
idea.
Yeah.
Based
Okay, I'll
on,
just let him know we definitely.
Based on what we learned this afternoon.
Help,
Well,
please
you know,
help.
based on his presentation, he just seems so fluent with this whole thing.
And then the
That's
last thing
amazing.
was a field trip to Gorham's project, just so that it might be helpful for us to see it in person. I don't know if you can actually drive pretty close to it and see it through their fencing, or if it would be helpful for,
We're terrorists.
or if we should reach out to someone at the town and ask if we can get an organized tour.
I think
Huge site.
the latter, yeah.
That looks like a rendering to me.
Do
than
you-
an
We
actual
actually reached out to the planning director or something.
You know them, okay.
I don't know him, but I'm sure.
You
he'll
can
be
reach
friendly.
out on
Yeah,
our
so-
behalf. Yeah, that would, if you don't mind, Mark, that
Sure.
would be, do you think that would be helpful for us, just to kind of
Yes.
see in person?
They're very interesting.
It might, if nothing
Very
else, it might
nice.
be worth, the conversations you'd have with them as you
Yeah.
were walking along, would probably be more valuable than.
Yeah.
the site
Right.
itself.
We talked to their,
They're like, don't do what I did.
we talked to their assessor a little about the TIF stuff and he had interest, or the property tax stuff, and he had interesting information, so I bet we could talk to someone else.
Awesome.
That'd
Great.
be great.
I think we made it through our agenda. Our next meeting is May 19th.
Round one complete. Round two. Lots more to do.
All right. Do we have to move to adjourn?
I think we do, yeah. I move that we adjourn.
I moved.
All right, all in favor?
Weep as I
Aye.
find it's gonna be.